1,065,000 Canadians had escaped poverty because of our government's programs like the Canada Child Benefit, programs like the Guaranteed Income Supplement, the increase to the OAS. All those things made a difference, and we created a lot of jobs as well, 1 million jobs. Just the kids alone through the Canada Child Benefit, 384,000 children have escaped poverty because of the Canada Child Benefit. Why? Because 9 out of 10 families have more money in their pocket, right? Because of the Canada Child Benefit. But those gains have now been lost again because of COVID. So we now have to redouble our efforts to not only regain the momentum, but to also increase support so that we can fight poverty. One thing that I'm really proud of is our government's economic response and help for Canadians during COVID has ensured that a lot of people can survive through this pandemic. Imagine if you had a government that did not listen, that did not provide those supports. Where would people be today? So, and it's not just the right thing to do, it's not just the kind thing to do, it's also economically smart, because when people are working through the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy, when people have food and shelter, they're okay, they can stay healthy, and we can get out of this pandemic easier and better and faster than other countries. Because when you support people through that process, they come out better at the other end, and that can only be good for our country, not just good for them, but good for all of us. So that's our approach.
There seems to be a lot of things that we can still uh, ask the minister and for the minister to respond to. Unfortunately, time is not so kind to us. It's now 5:30, which means, given the schedule to us, we need to wrap up. Mr. Minister?
Well, it's been a pleasure to speak to all of you. Look, if you didn't get a chance to ask a question, or if we didn't get a chance, if you feel that there was more comments or questions that you needed me to take, I would be happy to come back. We will continue this conversation. I love connecting with the community all the time. So, this is just the first meeting. We can have continued conversations, and it also gives me an opportunity to also continuously update you on what the government is doing, because we are very busy to make sure that Canadians are taken care of, that families and children and workers and communities are taken care of. And the best way to do that is to update you, but to also learn from you what else we need to do, because you have the answers. We don't have all the answers. So we will continue the dialogue, we'll continue the conversation, and hopefully next time we do another half an hour and we answer more questions and we have more clarity on what needs to be done.
Thank
This is
you.
a shared effort, and by the way, Canadians expect us to work together like this. We are working very closely with the municipalities, with the provinces. I don't know if you've seen the politics in Canada. It's all about collaboration. It's about teamwork. We're taking a Team Canada approach to fight COVID-19, and it's working, and people can see the difference.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. There are so much more to talk about, and we appreciate your offer. We shall take that offer, and hopefully you will find time for us in the future. Meanwhile, to those who are interested or scheduled to attend the Q&A for the town hall, we need to switch to StreamYard and use the link that we have sent you earlier.
I'll
Because
say I'll leave you by saying salamat, salamat, everybody.
Salamat,
Salamat
Mr.
din po.
Minister.
Salamat,
And
Minister.
we
Thank you
will
very
we'll,
much.
we'll get you there in the Q&A, and you'll be the first one to ask.
Thank you. Mabuhay. Thank you.
Mabuhay, mabuhay. Salamat
The
po.
other side, for the media, Jean
Yeah.
and Lota, thank you, and Cynthia, thank you. For our media people, will see you at StreamYard.
Yes, please
Yeah.
switch to your StreamYard links. I'm ready here and waiting for your we should have anticipated that earlier, so we could have avoided the need to switch. Hello again,
Hi.
Rico. And we have Joey Salvador.
Hello, hello. How are you?
Sorry,
Ano yan? Sorry.
sa forum.
Magtampo. Hindi, akala ko nga hindi na ako mag-a-attend doon kasi sabi mo, akala ko hindi question and answering forum. Where's the minister?
Okay.
Hello, Marie Pacheco. I haven't met you before. Hello.
Hi, Joey.
Hi. I just friended you because I saw your name on the thing. But I'm having a problem with, can you believe it? I didn't simulcast this, Kuya Dan, because Facebook won't let me post anything. They said I post too many today.
That's fine. That's fine. You can share this afterwards. So, gentlemen and ladies, while we're waiting for the others, I will have to enable and go live. Oh, the minister is here. So we're going live now. But as soon as you see the word live on the screen, on the upper right-hand portion, then we are live. There you go. And we are live here at Tinig Pinoy Radio, where we would be speaking with the Honorable Minister of Family, Children, and Social Development. So in the midst of this pandemic, Canadians worry about their health, their livelihood, and we are live here at Tinig Pinoy Radio, where we would be something is happening around speaking here.
Hi, Joey.
Okay. You seem to have a little problem here. Michelle, sorry. Regina, can you take over, please?
Opo. Mga katinig, welcome sa Tinig Pinoy Radio. This is our very special edition here at Tinig Pinoy Radio with the Honorable Minister Ahmed Hussen. He is the Minister of Family, Children, and Social Development here in Canada. We are here to talk with the Minister, including with us are some of our media friends across Canada. We have Marie Pacheco from BC, and we have Joseph Salvador from Greater Toronto area. We have DG Michelle here with us in Ottawa, as well have for now, and we'll have other media joining us here at Tinig Pinoy. Welcome to Tinig Pinoy, Minister. We also have Lee Iron from Durham, Ontario. The last time I saw the minister was the Philippine Independence at Parliament Hill.
Yes.
And we have that. We used to have many events in June, and now we have hardly any events that we could see. So, Minister, so wonderful to see you, and welcome to Tinig Pinoy Radio.
Thank you so much, Kamusta po kayo to all of you. Salamat for having me here. Thank you so much for the opportunity to of course connect with you, and I look forward to your questions, your comments, your feedback, and your ideas. We've been really busy to make sure that our number one priority remains to keep Canadians safe through this pandemic, to make sure that we defeat this pandemic together, that we help families, children, workers, and communities get through this pandemic, that we continue to be there for families, we continue to be there for businesses and the nonprofit sector, and as a government that we continue to listen to communities such as the Filipino-Canadian community. So it is my pleasure to be here, and I look forward to the conversation.
Lee and Ron will have a chance to ask a question.
Okay.
Good evening, Minister. I would like to ask if all these programs in your office, where will the interested Canadians go? Directly apply in the federal government websites, or are they through the provincial government?
Thank you very much. That's a very important question. It depends on the program. So for the Emergency Community Support Fund, for example, the application process has closed now, but when it was open, we went through 3 national intermediaries to disperse the money. One is the United Way Centraide Canada, the other one is Canadian Red Cross, and the last one is Community Foundations of Canada. But when it comes to, for example, the new enhanced EI, of course, that is you have to go through Service Canada. So it's through the federal government, through Service Canada. There's also some new benefits under the Canada Recovery Benefit for people who have been affected by COVID, who have also lost employment income. So all of those are being managed through Service Canada. And in terms of the other programs, there are other programs that are being run by Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada to assist food banks and other community food programs. So they're managing that. So it's a host of different programs. Happy to continue to help direct the community and Canadians through my office and through my team, and as well as I know that other ministries and other members of parliament are also doing the same thing.
Thank you, Minister. DG Michelle.
Yes, nice to meet you again, Minister
Nice to
Hussein. I
meet
hope you
you.
remember me. I'm the
Yes,
one
I
who
do.
interviewed you from 93.1 FM.
I remember
in,
that.
in
Thank
all,
you.
yes, here is a question. In all of the top priorities of your department, what do you think is the most fulfilling commitments and one that needs to be focused on, especially on this time of pandemic?
Well, I think they're all important. The commitments that we made as a government to be there for families, to be there for workers, to be there for children throughout this pandemic. I think they're all equally important. The one that I focus on. I mean, I focus on a lot of different things, but since you're asking me to pick one, I will pick one, and that is our efforts to really be there for Canada's most vulnerable populations through housing supports. For example, our newly announced Rapid Housing Initiative is going to make available $1 billion to rapidly build housing for Canada's most vulnerable Canadians who are on the street, as well as enabling municipalities and other nonprofit organizations, indigenous groups, and governing bodies to acquire property and convert it into housing and build rapid housing. I'm really excited about that. I think that program is going to make a big difference in Canada. The second one that I want to highlight is the importance of the early learning and childcare sector. This is a sector that has experienced tremendous pressure, disruption, and challenge throughout this pandemic, and we are investing heavily to support them so that they can survive and thrive throughout this pandemic, because we know that it is really important to secure that sector for the sake of the children, for the sake of the parents who need access to affordable and quality childcare. So those are two examples on things that I'm working on that I'm quite excited about, and that fit into the larger vision of our government to be there for all Canadians.
Minister
Thank you
Hussein,
very much.
my question is for the children. We have
Yeah.
seen many sports that are cancelled or they cannot do it because of
Yeah.
pandemic. I understand these are provincial, but you work very closely across
Yes.
Canada with different provinces.
Yes.
My questions, two of them. One is that we used to have a tax credit for all of our sports activities for the children. Let's say if you have 2 or 3 children and all of them goes to different sports, this becomes very expensive.
Yes.
We don't have that now, so that's one of my questions. What is your government going to do about that? And my second question in relation to that is, as you are talking to different provinces, what can be done so that our children could go back to their sports? Because mentally, they are really not happy being home. Like my son plays football. He is 14.
Yeah.
They were a provincial champion last year, and now they couldn't even play sports. So
Yeah.
there you go, Mr. Honorable Minister.
No, that's two very important questions. I think when I mentioned the Emergency Community Support Fund, that was a $350 million fund to enable community organizations to serve people throughout this pandemic. And one of the groups that they focused on, some of the organizations that we helped, were organizations that were helping children to deal with the pressures of this pandemic, helping them through remote learning and games and socialization opportunities and so on. So we have to do what we can to help them utilize the technology. However, I think bringing them together and in large gatherings is something that has to be agreed to by the public health advice. Right now, because of the increase in cases, because of the fact that we're in the second wave, there's a limitation on gatherings, large gatherings like that. And so, as much as we would like kids to come together again and play together and have programs, their health is more important. And it's, I know it's tough. I know it's not easy. I know it's hard on the kids. They miss their friends. But you know, we all have to do our part to keep coronavirus in check. The second question you asked is about the tax credit. We had in the previous government a number of boutique tax credits, but a lot of families who really needed the help couldn't get it, and so we introduced the Canada Child Benefit. Now, 9 out of 10 families are receiving more money in their pocket because of the Canada Child Benefit, because of the changes we made. So, for example, in the past, the government would give you money, a child benefit monies, and then they would tax the money again, which doesn't make sense. So we have introduced a tax-free child benefit. We also stopped sending child benefit checks to millionaires, because in the past every family would get a check, even if you
Right.
didn't need help raising your kids.
True.
So we took those savings and we put them to families who actually need it the most.
Right.
In terms of these physical activity tax credits that encourage physical activity, I'm not familiar too much on the future direction of that. It's something that our minister, who's responsible for sports, will have to look at, and I can certainly talk to him and see what our future direction in that regard is.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. Chris
You're welcome.
Ontong of Alberta just joined us. Chris, you have a question for the minister?
Hey,
Chris
good,
Ontong.
good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon,
Good
Mr.
afternoon.
Minister. It's nice to be part of this group. And just a minor correction, because I might get beaten up when I go to the grocery. I'm representing Manitoba.
Oh, Manitoba. Sorry.
It's all
Sorry.
good. It's all good. It's all good.
It's okay.
Mr. Minister, my question is more about there's an observed trend. I'm pretty sure it's in other provinces. This might also be true that a lot of the immigrants are applying here in Canada, and they are being evaluated based on their professional experience, their employment background. But then once they settle in their preferred province, they're not able to practice their profession, or they have to jump through so many hoops
Yes.
to be able to practice their profession. Is this something that your department can address as well? Within the purview of your department?
Yeah, very good question. So it is not within my ministry. So I'm not in charge of that, but it is something that is very, very important. I'm really glad you brought up that question.
Thank you.
So, but having said that, so let me clarify two things. Number one, the regulatory bodies that provide licensing to lawyers and doctors and engineers and nurses, those bodies come under provincial jurisdiction. They're not under the supervision of the federal government. So the provinces are the ones who determine how those professional bodies will be governed, and many of them actually are independently governed. Their membership governs them. So, for example, the Law Society of Ontario, the lawyers themselves govern themselves. The government of Ontario does not govern them, although they may set broad policies. So I think this is an issue that provinces really have to move on, and some have moved more than others. Having said that, what have we done on the federal side? We have done what we can based on the extent to which this issue can be addressed by the federal government. Remember, I said it's a provincial jurisdiction, but there are a few things that we can do. So I know that in my time as Minister of Immigration, one of the proud policies that I was so proud to introduce together with our Minister of Labor at that time is a strategy called the Targeted Employment Strategy for Newcomer Professionals. And what that strategy did is it spent $27.5 million to help professional newcomers to jump through those hurdles. So a lot of times it's not even the problem is not even lack of a way to get the licensing. Sometimes it's not having enough money to write the exam. because the exam
Yeah.
costs money, the books cost money. If you have to take 6 months to study to study the exam and write the exam to become a nurse, you need to stop working maybe to do that. But a lot of people can't do that because they need that employment income. So
Yeah.
we were providing them through that employment strategy with money to pay for the exams, to pay for the books, to pay for their income support, to give them income support while they quit their job so that they could study for those exams and become the nurse or engineer or doctor that we all want them to be. Finally, when they finished, we would encourage Canadian employers to give them a chance. And we would create paid internships, paid placements, sorry, so that they could actually get the Canadian work experience. Because that's another hurdle, right? Even after you
Yes.
get the license, people say, well, but you don't have Canadian experience. So I think that's the extent that the federal government can go. But beyond that, if there's hurdles with respect to the licensing process, that's something that the provincial government can address. We don't have
Right.
the jurisdiction to deal with that.
I'm
Thank you,
grateful
Mr.
for your
Minister.
I'm grateful for your response, Mr. Minister, and
No problem.
thank you for your service. And the only reason I brought that up is because that disparity between their background versus what they can practice here is definitely affecting their lives as a family here
Yeah.
in Canada.
And
So
we created
uh,
a newcomer professional loan program where we would provide very good soft loans to professionals so that they can pursue their fields. And so it was very successful. And I hope we do more of those kinds of things. But the provinces have to do their part to
Okay.
encourage the licensing bodies to be more open.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. I am
thank you.
smiling here because the honorable minister cannot get away without immigration related questions.
Yeah.
I just would like
It
to make
comes with the
sure.
territory.
And we,
Mariton,
yes,
Yes.
we'd like to hear from Marie Pacheco.
Hi, Mr. Minister.
Hi.
Good evening again. I just
Hi.
wanted to go back to the support for vulnerable families that you sort of touched on earlier.
Right, right.
I'd like to focus more on the support from those who are taking up SERB but are now not qualified to do the EI. Do we have support for them? Because there's still
Yes,
a lot of those.
absolutely. Absolutely. So to cover those people, we have introduced something called the Canada Recovery Benefit, which splits into the Canada sickness benefit, the Canada care benefit. If you're caring for someone, if you have to stop working because you're caring for someone who has COVID and you're not eligible for EI, then we will give you something called the Canada Recovery Care Benefit. If you're sick and you have to stop working, but you're not EI eligible, you get the Canada Recovery Sickness Benefit, and so on. So that is to cover all the people who are not EI eligible. So so this is the new Canada Recovery Benefit that we introduced.
What about, just to follow up on that, what about those who do not fall under both but cannot go back to work for reasons like they're just afraid to go back to work for their children? They have to take care of their children because it's different times that we're having.
What do you mean they don't fall into both? I
So
don't understand.
they're not taking care of
Mhm.
someone who's sick, and
Yeah,
they don't fall under the category of sick or who has not been who has not who cannot
yeah,
take the benefit, but their jobs are still on hold because their
right.
hours are not back yet, and
Yeah.
it's not they still don't qualify for EI.
Well, if the jobs are still there and their hours are less, or the company may be trying to go back into bankruptcy or something else, the business can access the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy, and the government of Canada will pay a large percentage of the wages of those workers. And that program has been working. And in fact, the good news is we just extended that program. It was supposed to expire, I think, in November. We extended it to the summer of next year. So now businesses and people have the certainty. And in fact, there are businesses which had closed and that had laid off their workers, and they reopened and brought those workers back because the government of Canada is helping with the wage subsidy. So it's making a big difference to a lot of people.
Okay, we have 7 minutes for 6 o'clock. Joey Salvador, you have a question?
Hello again, Mr. Hussein. How are you?
Hi.
You
Very
hear me
good.
well. Mr. Hussein, this is probably one of the coolest portfolio among the ministers, cabinet ministers under Trudeau, because I took care of my daughter for 4 years, hands-on primary caregiver. You might have heard some European countries pay as much as 10,000 euros per child. Well,
Mm.
they're trying to mitigate, their population, the lack of population. But
Okay.
in Canada, I think, if we adopt such a program, I think it will solve two problems. One is our problem right now with the parent grandparent program with the
Okay.
reunification. We're having a little bit of problem with that because we only have 10,000 spots per year when there's
Hmm.
100,000 applying. And the other one is the early childhood learning facilities, because
Yes.
according to the Canadian developmental psychologist who wrote the book
Yes.
Hold On to Your Kids, the longer the kids stay with their parents, and countries
Yes.
that send their kids to school above 6 years old are actually
Yeah.
healthier kids and more advanced. What do you think of that?
Interesting. Well, look, we are always a government that's guided by evidence and science, and I'd like to see that study. I haven't really been exposed to that particular study. On the issue of providing supports to families for the cost of raising children, the Canada Child Benefit is a huge game changer. I mean, if there's it's an income tested system, and so but for some families, if you're a, a single parent who's making $40,000 a year, and you have a child or actually, if you have two children and you're making $40,000 a year, and you're a single parent, you could get as much as $15,000 tax free from the Canada Child Benefit for the two kids. So you were talking about 10,000. We're talking about 15,000 for some
For two
families, but
kids.
less for others. Less for others. So it really depends, and I think that's a better system. Instead of sending money to every family, even though, and that's what the previous government used to do. They used to send money to millionaire families who did not need help with raising their kids. And so what we've done is we've stopped doing that. We've taken that money and reinvested it and redirected it to families who actually need the help. And if you look at, just before the pandemic, there was a study, there was the Statistics Canada numbers that came out that showed that our programs were making a difference in removing children out of poverty, and generally from our other economic measures, that we had removed 1,065,000 Canadians out of poverty between 2015 to 2018 in 3 years. And we were ahead of our schedule. We were supposed to, reduce poverty by a smaller amount by then, but it was actually higher. And we were on a very good track, but then COVID happened, and now we have to, of course, reassess all of those numbers and see how we can get Canadians back on track.
Sorry, Mr. Hussen. I think what the European program was actually around enough for one parent to stay home. It's not 10,000 a year. It's the subsidy is enough for one parent to stay home while one parent go to work. So I think it might be 10,000 a month actually. In
Okay.
Sweden.
Oh,
in
interesting.
Sweden.
I wasn't aware of that. There's a question on the chat. Someone is saying, sadly, nonprofits do not have access to assistance. United Way is registered charity. Nonprofits are excluded. You're absolutely right. But then we also gave money to Canadian Red Cross to distribute money, and that channel was for nonprofits who could not get access to United Way. So we created different intermediaries for different organizations. So the charities went to United Way. For nonprofits, we told them to go to Canadian Red Cross, who disbursed money for nonprofits.
Okay,
Also,
well,
we also have one more question, hopefully from Lee Iron
Yes.
and hopefully from Michelle. Lee?
Okay.
Minister, I would just like to clarify about home ownership, in which you
Yeah.
said that 10% the government will give for the down payment, and they
Yes.
become co-owners.
Well, not co-owners, but like what I mean is the government will have, I used the wrong word. It's not co-owners. Basically, they will have a portion of the house. They will have an ownership stake in a portion of the house, and so when you end up selling the house, the government will have
I
its
see. I
its
see.
share. But let me give a real life example. So let's say there's an individual who wants to buy a home for $500,000.
Mhm.
The government of Canada will provide up to $50,000 in the form of a down payment to enable that family to get into the market. So maybe they only have 5% or something, and the government will kick in another 10%. So it does a couple of things. It enables people to get into the market. It also lowers the mortgage payments because you don't have 5% anymore. You have 15% paid off, right? So or 20%. So that's, but it's only for first-time home buyers. But we also recognize, as I said, Greater Toronto area, Greater Vancouver area, and Victoria. Those markets, $500,000 is not enough. So we propose that we will increase the amount eligible for the 10% to raise that amount for those markets only, and so that means that we will raise it to up to $789,000, which means we will pay 10% of homes for up to homes that are worth $789,000. Anything beyond that is not part of the program. But so that increase for those three markets, we haven't done that yet, but we will do that. It's our promise, and we'll keep that promise.
Thank you, Minister.
I think we have room for one more question.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes. Hello again, Minister. Yes,
Hello.
my question is, as you can see, there's a lot of concerns here that our media is asking, and not only that, from the Filipino Canadian. And in behalf of all the Filipinos in Canada, we are almost 1 million here. The population of the Filipinos in Canada is almost 1 million. And but we don't have any representations from the community which is in the position. How can the government assures or make sure that our concerns are given the proper attention?
Well, I think it's important for all of us in leadership positions, not just in the federal government, but also provincial governments, municipal governments, school boards, school trustees, any leadership position, any leadership roles that people play, that we listen to each other, that we listen to our constituents, that we engage people, that we always ask ourselves, who is not being included in this room, who's not being included in this discussion. So that is something that is really important, but also representation matters. I know for a fact many Filipino Canadians who are in provincial leadership positions. Minister Pon and I work very closely together. She's in Alberta. She's the minister responsible for housing in Alberta. So I work with her very closely. And there's many other Filipino Canadians who are serving in municipal leadership roles, in provincial leadership roles, and hopefully in the future, federal leadership roles. And I think it's just a matter of time. But the Filipino Canadian community for me is a dynamic community from living from coast to coast to coast. I have met so many Filipino Canadians all across the country, not just in the large cities, but also in the smaller towns, contributing, playing a key role in our economy, in our society, in our culture, and really, I mean, incredible contributions to Canada before, now, and into the future. So it's always been a pleasure for me to connect with the community, always, and be a friend of the community. And I worked with the community very closely in my time as immigration minister. You know very well the work that I did to help thousands of Filipino caregivers to get their PR status. We got rid of the backlog that kept families apart for years. We introduced a better system that will process people in 6 months. We did a lot of work to really help those who had been neglected by our system, those who were caring for Canadian families and Canadian children. So I'm always proud to have these opportunities, and very thankful to you. Salamat, mabuhay.
Maraming salamat din po, Mr. Minister. Regina?
Maraming salamat po, Kuya Dan and Honorable Minister.
Thank you.
Okay, and that wraps up
Thank
this
you,
session. We hope in the future that the Minister will again grace us with his presence. Mabuhay po sa inyo, Mr. Minister.
Mabuhay. Salamat.
Salamat.
Salamat po.
Thank you.
And it's a wrap. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Po, Kuya Dan.
Thank you, Kuya
Thank
Dan,
you.
for
Thank
inviting
you, Kuya
us.
Dan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Maraming
you,
salamat po.
guys.
Nice meeting
Thank
everyone
Oh,
here.
buti nakarating ka, Chris. Thank
Nice
you so
meeting
much.
everyone here.
And
Humahabol.
makahabol.
Oh, let's do a talakayan after.
Galing sa timing ni Chris.
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
I'm
where's
really
Chris?
happy when I saw him coming up. Like, oh wow, Chris made it.
DJ
Where are
Mitch.
you, Chris?
Yeah, I
Bakit
think he
nawala?
left. He left. DJ Mitch, you're Tinig Pinoy, right? I see you.
Hi,
I
yes,
see some
hi,
of your
Joey.
show. I see some
Yeah,
of your
thank you
show.
so much. Yeah. Maraming
Kompleto.
salamat po.
So unlike
Ayan.
the private forum, this session has been recorded, and
Oh.
if you wanted to share it, Joey,
Yes. Yes.
I can download and
And,
send you a link to my Dropbox
Yes.
so you can pick it up. Okay?
Perfect, kuya. Hindi mo siya ni-live.
Salamat, Kuya
Bakit
John.
din mo?
Live, naka-live ito.
Naka-live
Oh,
siya.
hindi. Naka-live siya sa YouTube, right?
Yeah, you can also pick it up from YouTube and from Facebook Live.
I'll try
It's actually live.
that one, yeah. Kasi
Yeah, it's running.
hindi
So-
ako makapag-post today.
Yeah. Okay.
Pinapawisan ako.
Thank you again. More power, Tinig Pinoy.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you,
Maraming
Joey.
salamat.
You take care and more power to OJTV as well.
Oh, thank you po. We'll share
Okay.
it.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, Kuya. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Reg.
Yeah.